am Camille Miller, and I am co-hosting today with Lee Gabarczyk of Soulful Mandelas out of Long Valley, New Jersey. He is also one of our charter members. We have decided together to start doing at least a monthly, maybe it'll end up being more, podcast just about our discussions, because we tend to have great discussions offline. Yes. And we thought maybe it'd be kind of fun to do as a podcast, just generally. So if you're listening to us and you love this idea, give us some topics.
Yes.
So,
yes, absolutely.
Yes. So thanks, Lee, for doing this. And maybe over time we'll come with a better intro. But this is part of the NLVP TV podcast for right now.
Well, we're talking a little bit about life lessons.
Life lessons,
and,
yeah.
You know, and which can be, you know, such a broad topic. But one of the things that I think anybody who is embracing something that is unique to them is going to come up with is that disappointment, is that resistance, is that, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do this. This is so crazy. You know, how am I going to make a living? And there's all of these kinds of pragmatisms that we're met with, you know, that are completely at odds with what it is that we're really feeling passionate about. And I think that one of the things that is so important is, you know, follow your bliss with Joseph Campbell. When I'm doing something that is energized in a positive way, and I don't mean in an avoidant way or something where I'm like escaping or being irresponsible. When I'm really embracing something that is really, really powerful for me, it has an energy, you know, it has a strength and a
glow.
It's a glow. It's like,
yeah.
You know, I don't know why that person, you know, I like them, but they seem to really like love what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that part, whatever that is, you know, and it could be anything, whatever that is, when that's being honored through self-expression, through connection, through involvement, things have a way of kind of working out in a very favorable outcome. The resistance to that energy, to that kind of self-expression that gnaws at us. And I think we all know what that is. You know, it's like, you know, the thing that's gnawing at you that you want to express, or like what thing? The thing that you just thought of, that thing.
The thing that just changed your whole mood.
that thing. So
yeah.
that part, and, you know, I'm going to make this personal, because, you know, otherwise I just don't think that it's fair to talk about these things without making it, you know, involving myself in a way that makes me vulnerable and humble to the topic. So, you know, I had, and I mentioned this previously, but I had a very difficult time a few years ago, really getting the crap kicked out of me with life. And I knew that there were things that I wanted to do, but I just couldn't see, like, how does that work? Like, how do you make a living intuitive? Like, what is that? And then drawings, intuitive drawings.
Right.
So, which came later, and it kind of has been rolling out of that central idea. But if I've got something going on in the back of my mind, and I keep thinking about that, I'm working on that. So even if I'm formally not doing it where I have my certification or, you know, some kind of special talent. Maybe it's crystals, or maybe it's some kind of drawing technique, or maybe it's some kind of healing art. But since I was very young, I'm into it. So I've been working on this. So you know what? People do something long enough, they're going to get pretty good at it. And then it's just a matter of like, okay, well, what is that thing? So when I start going on, like I had, when I was doing these intuitive readings with people. And at one point in my life where I was actually learning about my intuition was after my business has failed and everything was blowing up, I was doing Ubering and lifting. And one of the things that was so fun about that is I got to work with people and say, hey, you know, like, Winnetka, Illinois, what's going on with, and they're like, how do you know about Winnetka, Illinois? Was it in my suitcase? Like, no, I haven't seen your suitcase. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I'm thinking, you know, I have this ability. I can do this. Maybe this is something. Who knows? And then, you know, so then I started exploring it, and I started talking to people and started saying, hey. So the other thing is doing things like self-care. I got involved in a program of self-care connected to my, you know, when I'm doing the things that honor me, not to go into too many tangents here, but when I'm doing the things that honor me, I attract the energy of support. So maybe it's a 12-step program, or maybe it's some kind of meditative group or yoga group or something where I'm saying, I'm doing this because I want to be better as a person. And that's kind of what I was doing. And I met someone through that who then knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. So all of it came from the intention of my own self-care. So self-care coupled with passion creates opportunity.
Yeah.
That's that like bing. Sometimes I feel like, oh yeah, like something like intuitively there's this feeling of, yeah, that's it, go with that. So that kind of connectedness where I'm really connecting, because I think that everybody wants to connect with other people and have these meaningful relationships, but if they're not connecting with themselves, where are they going to connect to? You know, if I'm not connected to myself and understand myself and have a sense of my own value, I have a sense of what my fears are, what matters to me, etc. Not that I'm, you know, dogmatic about it, but have some kind of connectedness to it. How am I going to be able to share me with them, you know, if I don't have that kind of sense of self? It's like, you know, it becomes very like, then I become more about them, and then I wonder like why I'm not being happy.
Yeah.
All sorts of codependency, craziness, etc. But when that passion and that self-care meet, and I start talking about the things that matter to me, and I start really getting into what it is that's important to me, people are like, oh, you know what? I have a friend who I think might help you here. Or there's this organization, you should try it. You know, or
thank you to that friend who connected you to us.
I actually wasn't consciously trying to do that, but I just did because it's true. You know? So,
it's true. That's how we find our friends.
Yes, yeah, we find our tribe or our group, which is really the whole human race, but we find that little niche that clicks with us. Or that
and it changes.
Yes.
We had an interesting conversation. I don't know if it was on camera or off camera, but because we've had so many interesting conversations lately, which led to this podcast. But you had asked me, I was probably complaining about life, and you had asked me, have your friends changed yet? And I was like, oh my God, I'm going through this cleansing right now. Like, I just need new people.
Yeah.
I learned I shouldn't tell my old friends I need new friends. But other than that life lesson, I'm going through this phase of I need new people in business, in life, in friendship, because I'm at this new place, right? Mm-hmm. And something came across, this is just being aware. I love law of attraction stuff. Right. And something came across my Facebook after I had that conversation with you. And it said, if you're feeling, not exact, paraphrasing, something like, if you're feeling lonely at this time, it's because your vibration has recently elevated and you haven't met the people there yet, but you're going there. And I was like, oh my God. I was just like, oh my gosh. Yes. I'm going through this phase now of I need new people. And I'm just putting that out into the universe. I need new people. And it could be business, it could be life, it could be, and interesting enough, I started connecting with people on LinkedIn, and I just had a conversation before jumping on this podcast with someone who reached out and said, hey, do you want to have a call? They're in Arizona, and I'm like, you know what? I wanted to build up the Pacific Coast for us. Mm-hmm. And all of these people from Arizona all of a sudden just started linking to me on LinkedIn, and I'm like, do you want to have a call? Do you want to have a call? And I'm meeting like all of these people now, and I'm like, I just had to be open to the possibility. And then I was like, you know what? 5 people a day. I'm going to meet 5 new people a day. And if it's just, you know, they're saying, hey, let's have a discovery call, or let's do this, or let me hear about you and what you do. And those connections connect you every other way.
Absolutely.
You know, like even in this community, I meet so many awesome people.
And so one of the things that I'm hearing there is I decided, so we make a conscious choice. We say, I am going to make myself open to this. I am going to conscientiously, it's not, I think one of the things that is really can be hold up a process or can be distracting is, well, I'm going to wait because they're going to be this thing, it's going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and then it'll be okay. Well, no, not really, because if my thinking and my intention is such that I'm not opened up, or I'm not making myself available, or I'm not clear about what I want to create in the sense of, you know, I mean, it's not to mean I'm married to that idea, but I'm at least open up to it. How am I going to then put out my little lighthouse signal to the world saying, hey, I'm over here, you know, and, you know, let's begin that process. And when you decided to do that, all of those other people, especially when it's an energized thing,
Yeah.
And when people have a great deal of energy and passion about what it is that they want to communicate, and they really feel like, I got this thing and it's really great and I really want to talk about it, and they have that and they're really solid in it, immediately people start coming in. And what I find so interesting is that when I'm meeting people from that attraction, from that law of attraction, and there's so much evidence that talks about this in physics, et cetera, about how energy attracts itself to itself, that when those relationships happen, they happen fast and they're powerful. The relationships are intense. I mean, it's like, I swear I've known you my whole life, or, we have a reincarnational connection, or really, you like blank, 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 and blank? Really? There's that whole sort of, and then there's that feeling of, I don't feel so alone in this. But I think all that begins with the choice of, I see that I matter. I see that what I have has value, which is a big conversation that people talk about personal value these days.
Yeah.
I have that value. I recognize and communicate that value, and then I do so with joy, with a sense of enthusiasm, and then in comes people. And if I have something where I'm not owning up to it, maybe I have a fear or a concern or some kind of thing, then I'm going to get sticking points, and I can say, thank you, life. Thank you for that little reminder that I have scarcity issues or abandonment issues, whatever it is. And I can kind of look at that and say, all right, I get that. That's fine. But that doesn't define who I am. I can continue to make a choice in this, and I'm going to move forward with it. I'm going to continue. Yeah. And then more and more and more people. And as, I was describing, when I meet a person who meets a person, and then they know people. And then there's all this enthusiasm. I've only been doing that kind of work since October of last year. And people see it, and they're like, they feel like I've been doing it my whole life. Because again, in the back of my mind, I've been thinking about it and working on it. So when it launches, it's launching from all those years of actual contemplation and reflection.
Right.
But when they see it, what they're responding to, I think, is the energy of excitement about the thing itself. Not really much of anything. Like, they're relating to that excitement. They're relating to the fact that they like that kind of excitement in their life. They're related that they want that kind of passion in their life. It empowers them. It gives them a sense of their own purpose and value. And that is kind of when people are in that energy, it's not about being a victim. It's not about what can I get from you. It's not about ego or vanity. It's like, what, like a little child, I'm so excited about my project, and then things start coming in. And that combination of things is where we start getting community. And then in communities, as with your organization and others, when we're then working as a group and we support each other, that passion then becomes exponential. Now we've got a whole group.
Yeah.
Whole group. And that's why with people who have prayer circles and, they affect change. There's been all sorts of evidence and documentation about how people will be praying intentionally to something, and then for something to happen and someone gets healed, or because they're working as a collective. Yeah. And that ultimately is the continued relinquishment of the ego and the attachment to, like, I'm special and I'm different, and more about I'm in service to whatever it is that I recognize is really important to me. I'm going to do it honestly and openly. If I don't know, I'm going to say that too. And I'm just one cog in this formula, and everybody else is just as important as I am, and off we go.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I love about our community, the NLBP community. And I think it's who we are just naturally. We give and we serve. That's who we are. In 3 years, I've never even seen competition. I've never seen a fight. I've never seen anyone complain about somebody else. Like, it's amazing, right? Yes. But I see the collaboration of people that just want to serve and help to elevate all.
Yeah.
Like a whole ocean rises together. All the boats rise together, whatever that saying is. It's and to see to see that in community it's amazing. And that's created on intention. Not, you can't go out and say, well, I'm going to build this, or I'm going to connect here. Or I'm going to, it just, the flow is amazing. Yes. Another thing, I was listening to another podcast today that I was listening to for a coach and building, upscaling huge business ideas. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where my brain is right now. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it's about hesitation. And it was about energy flow of when you get that energy and you know, like especially in your business, and this is what separates the big guys from the little guys, from those what they call like blitz scaling. There's a book I'm reading right now too, and it's going like beyond your wildest dreams and scaling without knowledge of how you're getting there. It's that moment of that great idea and going, I know exactly how to do this, and then not doing it, and you allow all that fear of all of those reasons why it can't happen. I don't have the money, I don't have the time, it's going to ruin my life, I just wanted to travel more, like all of this other stuff that you put there, that you personally limit your own beliefs and put there. But if you just, and so the whole podcast was called Stop Hesitating. Like look at that moment and just go with the power and the flow and the energy and allow it. And
absolutely. And one of the ways I would describe that, I mean, and this is coming from a lot of smart people than me, spontaneity.
Yes.
So if I'm spontaneous, which is scary because it's like working without a net, you know. Let me just consult my notes here. Hold on. Let me see. Let me just break down what spontaneity is, right? So instead of that, and not that it's important to know what you're talking about, but to really go with the flow of the energy that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I feel, so if I'm in that kind of flow and I realize, wait a second, I get that I have a fear about blah, blah, blah. So if I need to tell this person and address that, as I roll with that, life continues to say, oh, you're up for this. Let's give them a little bit more. Okay, we're going to continue. If I say, oh, you know, it's too much, or I don't know, or they're like, oh, guess they're not ready. Fine, we're going to give it over here then.
Yep.
So that kind of excitement and passion and spontaneity and energy and the flow that you're talking about, when that's moving, everything works, because it's kind of like I'm not kind of like steering this, like I've got a plan, this is my 10-point plan, I'm going to roll this out. Because I don't think that people, when they're really successful, they may have some ambition or desire or thing that they want to accomplish, but I don't ever think that they really know exactly how it's going to be, because they're in the experience of it and it goes where it goes. And one of the other things someone else said that was also much smarter than me is, we don't know the form of our own happiness. I really don't think that people do. I think I have an idea, you know, like I like a certain food, or maybe I like to visit a certain place, or maybe that kind of way of happiness, or I like a certain holiday maybe. But happiness and the experience of happiness and joy come from, for me, that sense of flow where I'm connecting to whatever it is that's valuable, and I'm expressing in a loving and open way whatever that is, and then by doing so, I'm met with that too. And now the energy is flowing around. There's none of the separation thoughts. I'm not kind of like distant, alone, and oh my goodness, what am I going to do? It's this connectedness that comes from that deeply personal and intimate connection with myself and my vulnerability and my spontaneity of expressing it. And that satisfies that need that I think so many people have, that part of like, well, I want my life to matter and I want to really count for something. Well, are you connecting to that, or are you just doing what the neighbors are doing? Or are you doing what everybody's told you should do, you know? And then when people find that, when they find that thing that they love, then they become business leaders or trendsetters or some kind of, point person that people look to, not because their style is necessarily that significant or that they're really that inventive in the sense of the style itself is what matters, because it really isn't. It's the passion and the joy and the confidence that they have, that they represent, to then say, well, if I wear or dress or act that way, I'll have that confidence. No, you'll just be like wearing a
totally, totally different. And that mindset, it's your mindset. That's exactly it. Because there's days that I feel really, really good and days that I feel really, really crappy. And there was probably no difference in time or my body shape or my weight or anything. It's day by day, and it's really a reflection of self.
Yes.
And that's hard to remember sometimes.
Well, it's, I think that challenge, and this is why the life lessons, the difficult things are so valuable, really, because that's where the personal growth is occurring. If
Yeah.
I just kind of floated through and everything was just beautiful every day and there was no hardship and no physical pain or no, granted, maybe for some people they've risen to some kind of level, but that's true for them. Good for them. I'm not there yet. So when I have that kind of experience, I can look at it and say, okay, life is teaching me something. Let me hear this. Let me pay attention before it gets louder. And then address it. Because it will get unaddressed, it will get louder. Because
I always say that. Life's going to keep bringing that lesson back until I learn it. So true.
And I also think what's so interesting too is that we're never, I might see somebody as a victim, or I might see myself as a victim, or I might, get into that kind of victim mentality, but I don't think from a real life lesson standpoint that in that mindset works, because I think that everybody is treated as capable, and they get the thing that they get to move them where they need to be moved so that they can get where they want to go. And they may not even know they need to go there. They may not even get that. Let's say, for example, there's a horrible storm and there's, a terrible hurricane and there's flooding and there's an elderly person and they're losing their home, but they're forced out. Now they're in a community and they realize that they have more strength and they have more power than they thought. And they realize that connecting to people was more important than their little home that they were in, all isolated.
Mm-hmm.
So these kinds of things that happen really kind of awaken people possibilities, because they need to be shook up a little bit, possibly, to get that comfort zone, because that being comfortable can be very dangerous in the sense of personal growth. When people are very comfortable and very predictable and they're not risking, or they're not looking at something, what they're doing then is living a dogma. They're saying everything needs to fit my dogma. I'm going to fit the dogma. This person doesn't fit the dogma. This person does fit the dogma, right? The karma runs over the dogma and it becomes a mess. So, so then what happens is I learn, like, wait a second, I can't control this. I can't control the process of my being and becoming. I can't control other people's, and letting go of control is so counter to ego. It's so counter to survival and that primal instinct of, hunter or gatherer. I'm going to take their stuff and I'm going to have the biggest bit of whatever it is. I'm going to have the biggest hut in the in the village, or the biggest pile of, like, whatever foodstuffs or collection of sheep, whatever. So all of that that survival stuff that is so understandable, we have to kind of, like, recognize it for what it is. It is part of our being, but then make a peace with that and say, okay, that being true, now what? What is the part of my consciousness that needs that self-expression? And that's where the joy comes, and that's where abundance comes, and that's where real happiness and connectedness comes from, because otherwise I'm living in a very small little container. And when I talk to people who are, waiting for that moment of sunshine in their life, or waiting for that big opportunity, it's because they're not letting anything into that container. It's not about life doing it to them. It's they're making a choice.
Yeah.
At this point
How
of view.
they see it.
Yeah. That
their mindset.
Yeah.
Again.
We only have, like, that much room. Well, we can only get so much in there.
Yeah.
So maybe you need to, like, rethink that a bit.
Yeah. It's that lack of abundance kind of mindset. But even in business, in life and business, no matter what it is for you, moving forward a little bit, even if you don't know the path you're on or where you're going, you have to constantly move forward. And I think I told you this story at another conversation we had that wasn't taped, that I had a family friend who has become a multimillionaire and couldn't get out of high school. Mm-hmm. Very personable. And I always sat there in awe going, how do you do that? How do you do that? Like, I don't get it. How do you do that? And I used to say when I was younger, well, obviously he can't calculate risk, because he wouldn't do that. And
Yes.
now I know on the other side
Yes.
that because he couldn't calculate risk, it never occurred to him he couldn't do it. He had no limiting beliefs that he couldn't. There was nothing he couldn't accomplish. If someone asked him to do a job, he went, yep. And then he went home and figured out how he was going to do that job.
Yes.
It was always, and that's how he built this mega company around himself.
Sure.
And I always said, you know, although it was good for me getting an MBA, it also made you calculate everything, like the business plans, the financials, and sometimes I have to go, you know what? The most important thing I did learn in my MBA, though, was opportunity cost. No matter what I'm doing, I'm not doing something else. And it's an opportunity there that I'm letting go. So no matter what it is in life, like I'm at this point in this community where we're growing so fast that I'm like, all right, I have to take out a huge loan. But if I don't, I stall, and that could crush everything. Absolutely. Or I just go for it and say, I know we're going to do it. So, you know, let me bring in more stuff. Let me bring in more of this, and just go, we're going to do it. I can't calculate what we're not going to do. Why don't I just always calculate what we are going to do and move forward? But it's always like you do everything out of like love or fear.
Absolutely.
You know,
I totally
and and sometimes you have to sit back, and there's a great exercise that we actually do at one of our retreats that we try to figure out, is that thought from love or is it from fear? There's this whole thing that you go through to try to figure out where the passion, is it passion? Is it fear? Is it a lie to yourself? Like, where did that thought come from? Because I think for a lot of people,
I think that is why it's so important to that we really know ourselves as best we can, so that we have an understanding of ourselves, honestly, in all of the, you know, the pluses and minuses of our personalities. And we'll never be 100% accurate here, but at least have something that they can say, well, wait a second, that's just not true for me. Or that's not really what I feel like I'm about, because I've tried that and it didn't work out well. And if I'm doing that, if I'm being really honest about those things, then things can work better because I'm in alignment then with what it is. Yeah. So everything that I'm saying and being, doing, you know, all of this stuff is in alignment, and there's not this conflicting stuff that creates drag in whatever it is that I'm going to say that it's important for me to move on. Because otherwise I'm kind of like, one moment I'm saying, yeah, I can do it. Then I'm saying, no, I can't. And I do think that there's something really wonderful about not knowing and being, and you know, being that person who is just proceeds forward, because we're all pioneers, so we don't know what the future is going to be. And to just take that risk constantly, those little I can't say enough about how teeny, seemingly meaningless changes can add up to such a life change. Absolutely. Getting up a little bit earlier in the morning, maybe doing like a 5 thing, or making a telephone call, or maybe doing some kind of like self-evaluation work at some point, or meditating, or whatever it's singing, you know, whatever it is that helps that person move that energy forward so that they don't have that feeling blocked in. Baby step. Baby steps.
A baby step. That's what I always tell everyone in business or on our Monday morning calls. I'm like, tell me a small win. And people are like, I don't have a win. I was like, something happened that was good. So tell me something that happened that's big. But sometimes they're big, but because they're an entrepreneur, they're thinking it's not that big. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I told, 5 people, or I booked 2 more sessions. And I'm like, that's huge. Like, that's a big win. We call them, but even a baby step, it's called like Couch to 5K or something for people that want to learn to run. Like, the first step is getting up off your couch. That's it. Just accomplish that. And so you have these small wins along the way. They're baby steps. Like, if you don't walk to the end of your driveway to get your mail, maybe you should do that this week. Just do that every day this week. Like, tiny baby wins. And then you go the next block. Then, it's small. And I think a lot of times people are looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
And they don't know the steps to get there, instead of stepping back and allowing that to happen. I was telling someone about our organization this morning on one of my discovery calls. And I was just saying, oh, this is what we're adding right now. And to tell you the truth, I have no idea what's coming, because I haven't been told yet. Like, it grows. I couldn't tell you where it was going. It just kind of happens.
So I think in all of this too, what I'm hearing is the importance of trust. You know,
Yeah.
for
Why trust?
me, you know, and I don't think I'm alone in this, trust is an issue. So if I am, you know, have something and it's not going great, right? And I have to have a certain amount of trust. Well, maybe the greatest lesson there isn't anything but just trusting and creating a thought of, this is a possibility that this could be okay. And just go with that. You know, it's so easy. I think one of the most, and I certainly have done this, I think one of the easiest things to do is to control something by shutting it down prematurely, like shutting down before the second date or shutting down before, you know, I actually sign on the bottom line of a business offer. Because by controlling that, I can then control somebody else harming me. But the greatest harm is when I'm not risking doing the action that's based on my personal passion that I know intuitively, whatever it is, through trust, through some awareness, through letting go, is the thing for me to do. Most very successful businesses have talked about how their greatest ideas, they don't even know where they came from. It was an inspiration.
Yeah.
But they had to have their consciousness open. They had to be a lot of great people who are, you know, in business, meditate, they relax.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm working, I'll get stuck and I get up, I walk around, and this is nothing that people don't know, but all of these little teeny, again, micro changes add up to some significant stuff. And I'm much more about that slow and steady progress than like the epiphany, and then, you know, it all changes, and then it's like miraculous. And well, fine, but that's a lot to process. And then you're putting all of that weight on something, and maybe that additional burden is like, you know, as quickly as it comes up, it goes down, you know, like you're touching burning light bulb, it fizzles out, right?
Yeah.
We like that kind of, that growth, not as a destination, because when I'm dying, whenever that happens, you know, that's when like end game, but in the meantime, not dead yet. In the meantime, I'm continuing to take the actions throughout my life. You know, I don't plan on retiring. You know, I'm doing what I love to do. So what else would I do? So I'll just stay with this. But all of that kind of forward thinking and being that spontaneous sort of engagement is going to allow for things to happen.
Yeah.
I just got an unsustainable. Yeah. So very, very, very cool.
Good. You froze up there for 1 second, but you came back.
Yes. I saw it. Yeah, so this is, all of these things I think are very common. I certainly have my share of them. I do think that when I'm putting my energy into something that's quite helpful to me, in the sense that it's honoring me, that life rewards me. And I can think of endless examples. There's one that I was just reflecting on today. When I was starting doing the designs, there was a neighbor I had done one for, and she knew somebody, and she had shown them the design, and the woman wanted to meet with me. And I was like, okay. And I met her. Then she's very, very gifted, intuitive, like incredibly skilled. And she was just so loving and kind, and I was so touched by her. And she started, and I had been questioning, like, you know, like, am I going to do this? But I wanted to know, and life gave me an answer, because she basically said to me, why have you waited? What were you waiting for? And I cried. I cried like a girl. I just cried and cried and cried. And I was so touched, because life was telling me, no, you're on the right track here, whether or not you get it. And we're going to send some little messenger here, because you've come this far with it. We're going to give you a little like nudge.
Yeah.
You know, like, keep going, keep doing this. And, you know, she said some amazing flattering things that about the work and what it meant, and, you know, what she thought was going on there, that if I were to go into it, just sounds self-aggrandizing. So I just hesitated to do it, but it was very, very lovely, and it felt true. It felt real. And I really appreciated it. And I have these things happen, like sometimes, you know, like don't give up before the miracle, right? There's a thing that'll happen, you know, like somebody will be sold, you know, they're doing it and they know that they're doing it, but there's something going on, and maybe they need that little signal, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're all right. You're in the right place. And then some wild random event will come and it'll remind them, yes, this is it.
Yeah. It's kind of like the ups and downs, well, of life, but of businesses. You hear like you have those discouraging days, and then you have the really, really highs, and then you have those really, really lows. And sometimes they're the same day, right?
Yeah.
A great opening, and then everything turns around. And
Yeah.
I always say for entrepreneurs, I forget what the percentage is. It's very, very high. Say it's like 70%. I don't know what the number is, but it's high. They say like that percentage of entrepreneurs quit right before they're ready to make it. They panic because everything dips, and that last leap is so hard for many entrepreneurs. If it's, investing in their company or coming out of their comfort zone or whatever it is for them, that's when they throw in the towel and they're like, I can't do it.
So this is
they've just gone through it. But that comfort zone's a big one.
The comfort zone, yes, we talked about that earlier about how dangerous that is. But one of the things I think is also really where people get tripped up is like, so experience awareness is like a one-way door. You open it, can't shut it. It's kind of, I saw the other side now, whoops. I can't go back. So let's say that I have it in my head like, well, I'm this guy and I have this kind of like definition and this is what I'm invested in. And maybe I'm not even really conscious about it, but I've got this like really strict system of how it is that I feel that I am defined. So I feel like I'm real. And then something comes along and says, wait a second, there's more to you than this. If you go through that door, you're going to find out that you're something else. And the consciousness says, oh my goodness, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't risk being who I am. It'll be horrible. And, and then I can't go back. Well, that's when people, in trust program, that's where they relapse, or that's where people, don't proceed in their business, or maybe they don't get that, that uptick in their career path because they're so comfortable in whatever it is that they've decided upon as being them, whatever that happens to be, that their spirit, their greater sense of self, still like gnawing to come out and say, hey, remember me? I was your child self with aspirations and desires and self-expression, all of that stuff wants to come and have a voice. And when that voice comes out and gets self-expression, now there's no way to deny it. You can't say, oh no, that's not true, because I just did it. And that's the beauty. And that's where the risk and trust are so important because to personal growth, because in this process of being and becoming, it is an evolution. Our soul self, as far as I understand, is much broader and wider than anything that I could comprehend. And I'm just scratching at the surface of what that may be. So I'm in this process of discovery that doesn't have an end. It's not like, I'm going to be making X, or I'll have 100 employees, or I'll have this kind of recognition in the world. There is no end point. It's just constant.
Going.
It keeps going. And then it's a matter of then letting go of, I get that I trust, but then I let go of the attachment to the dogma that got me there. It's like I build up a system by which kind of works for me, then I let go of that system. I learn and then I unlearn so that I can kind of maintain my flexibility and my scope and my spontaneity and be open to, hey, I didn't think about that, or I didn't see that.
Right, great. So I'm going to wrap up this first session because people won't listen after a while.
I know, coming up on an hour.
But it was great. And for those of you that are listening to us, we will be back many, many times, and hopefully as a regular series with different topics. So if you have topics, you can drop them in the comments below and let us know what you'd like to talk about or hear about. I don't know what to call this, but I was thinking me and Lee.
I like it. There you go.
So thank you for our first session, and we will join join everyone else, but we'll join again, and we will do another session shortly. So please, if you're listening to us, listen again. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.